The Supreme Court's decision allowing the government through the LTFRB upholding the dole's decision to implement the driver's salary scheme to finally replace the age-old driver-disadvantageous boundary system created quite a stir in the local transportation industry. To give us more insights, we have with us again no less than the chairman of the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, Attorney Martin Delgra III. Hello, Chairman Delgra, and welcome once again to Motoring Today.
Hello, Butch, and to all the viewers of Motoring Today.
Now, many bus drivers were reportedly elated by reports that the Supreme Court has finally ruled on the legality of the move to make it mandatory for them to be on regular salary basis instead of the age-old, arguably unfair boundary system. Perhaps you can briefly officially relate to our viewers what exactly was the said ruling and how beneficial is it for our bus drivers.
Yes, this case started sometime in 2012 when the LTFRB issued Memorandum Circular number 2012-01, as well as the issuance by the Department of Labor Employment of Department Order 118-12, which mandates bus operators to give salaries to their bus drivers and conductors. This is quite a radical change to the boundary system that we have been experiencing, especially among PUJ drivers. It has always also been the case way back where drivers were actually earning on a boundary system. Such a system of earning income, especially on the part of the driver, is not only unsafe because they need to go after passengers, because they need to earn, not only to pay the boundary, but as well as to pay for other expenses to cover the operation of the public utility vehicle. But obviously, it does not answer the concern of the bus drivers themselves, which is a security of tenure plus a level of guarantee that they will be paid commensurately. Now, under this new rule, which the Supreme Court has affirmed, the bus operators are mandated to give salaries to the bus drivers, as well as, if they may, provide performance-based bonus. What this means actually is that they'll be given benefits on top of the salary, which, by the way, should not be less than the minimum wage in the area where they're operating. They are actually given other benefits as well, given to regular employees, like holiday pay, rest day, overtime, as well as other mandated benefits like SSS, PhilHealth, and others.
Now, this ruling, in the long run, would inevitably eliminate bus operators who are running mom-and-pop type business, considering the additional cost of operations like employee benefits, correct taxes, etc., which would logically lead to non-compliance for many. Now, the question is, what happens to those who would not comply for the sake of surviving?
Insofar as the bus operators who would not want to comply or would refuse to comply, they would not be able to get the confirmation that the LTFRB will issue for their annual registration, and that will affect their business. No? We would just like to assure the bus operators that this scheme of paying salaries to the driver is actually the way to go, because we have seen it in a number of places, in a lot of places in fact. There is a level of assurance on the financial viability on the part of the bus companies, even if they would pay salaries to their drivers. And that would avoid, by the way, on-street competition, which really makes it very inefficient insofar as rendering such a public road, where you would find either too many buses waiting for fewer passengers or a lot of passengers waiting for fewer buses.
Now, with this situation being inevitable, what would you suggest to operators who know that they cannot survive with the strict implementation of this long-awaited radical change in the transport industry?
The key here really is route rationalization. What that means is that it is the duty of the Department of Transportation, which includes the implementing agency, by the way, is the LTFRB, to determine routes. When we determine routes, we have to determine how long the route is, where the public utility buses or vehicles would pass through. We would like to determine the volume of passengers taking a ride along that route, so that we'll be able to determine efficient number of public utility vehicles that we need to put on the road, at least on that particular route. And that's true to all the routes, because if there would be so many buses or public utility vehicles that we're going to give franchises on a route with fewer passengers, obviously that will not ensure financial viability on the part of the bus operators.
So, Chairman, I presume this is still in line with the government's Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program.
Yes, definitely. In fact, under our legal framework, under the Omnibus Franchising Guidelines, it already mandates the giving of salaries to public utility drivers. And that includes all modes of public transport. We are now seeing it in the implementation covering public utility jeepneys, where the drivers under the new franchises issued under the PUVMP, meaning the PUV Modernization Program, are already mandated to be given salaries by the PUJ franchise operators.
Tell us, Mr. Chairman, are there any mitigating measures that the government has lined up for this inevitable scenario for many small-time bus operators?
Insofar as the programs that we have put in place, as I've said, the giving of salary is something that is already a foregone conclusion insofar as the Department of Transportation is concerned and the LTFRB, because this is simply the way to move forward. And that I would like to point out, however, that since this is no longer, they're running on the road, meaning driving public utility vehicle is not based on boundary system, we are now assured, I'm referring to the passengers, of a much safer, efficient, and longer service, where operators would actually operate more than what a bus driver can physically take when they drive a bus, for example. So we've seen it, for example, in Tacloban, in the case of new PUJ routes that we have put in place, where it is no longer, the PUJs were no longer running on the boundary system, but they're already being paid salary. So the jeepney operators, by the way, are already have already extended the length of service that they have on the road.
Thank you very much for your time, Chairman Delgra. Before we end, do you have any message to the viewers, most especially the bus operators and drivers?
Insofar as the Department of Transportation is concerned, Butch, as well as the LTFRB, we would like to assure the public that the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program, or the PUVMP, will continue to be implemented under the administration of Mayor Rudy Duterte, because we think is already a program that has been awaited for a long time by our millions of commuters. And we are serious about moving forward to make this program happen in the long term in as many places as there are in the country.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Butch, and happy motoring.
Attorney Martin Delgra III, LTFRB Chairman, our guest this week on Motoring Today's Motoring Forum, courtesy of Suzuki Philippines.